When worlds collide. The emergency klaxons had been screaming for 3 minutes before Marcus Webb realized his salvage ship was about to become another piece of space debris. The Wanderer's edge shuddered violently as another plasma blast tore through her port hull, sending sparks cascading across the cramped bridge like deadly fireworks. "Come on, baby," Marcus muttered through gritted teeth, his calloused hands dancing over the control panel. "Don't quit on me now." The ship's artificial intelligence, what was left of it anyway, crackled to life with a voice that sounded like it was gargling static. "Hull integrity at 32%. Life support failing. Recommend immediate evacuation." Marcus let out a bitter laugh. "Evacuate to where? We're in the middle of nowhere, and those shadow bastards are still shooting at us." Through the cracked viewport, he could see the sleek black vessels of his pursuers, their hulls rippling like liquid darkness against the starfield. The shadows had been hunting him for 3 days now, ever since he'd salvaged that derelict transport near the outer rim. He still didn't know what they wanted, but their plasma cannons made their intentions crystal clear. The ship lurched again, and Marcus felt the familiar sensation of artificial gravity beginning to fail. His stomach did a slow flip as loose tools and debris began floating past his head. The planet below them, a hostile world called Zerion 7, was growing larger by the second. Its surface was a patchwork of purple jungles and crystalline mountains, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. "Atmospheric entry in 60 seconds, the AI announced with what Marcus swore was smugness. "Would you like me to play some relaxing music for your final moments?" "I'd like you to shut up and help me land this thing without becoming a crater," Marcus shot back, pulling up the emergency landing protocols. The screens flickered, showing scattered data about Zerion 7's surface. Hostile wildlife, toxic atmosphere in some regions, and gravitational anomalies that could crush a man's bones. Just another Tuesday in the life of a salvage operator. The ship's nose began to glow red as they hit the upper atmosphere. Marcus strapped himself in and began the most controlled crash he could manage. The Wanderer's edge screamed through layers of alien clouds, her hull plates peeling away like old paint. Through it all, Marcus kept his hands steady on the controls, guiding them toward what looked like a relatively clear section of jungle. They hit the ground with the sound of thunder mixed with breaking glass. Marcus was thrown forward against his restraints, his head ringing like a bell. For a moment, everything was silent, except for the gentle hiss of escaping atmosphere and the distant sound of something large moving through the jungle outside. "Well," Marcus said to nobody in particular, "that could have gone worse." He unbuckled himself and began the post-crash checklist, such as it was. The ship was done for, that much was certain. Half the cargo hold was open to the elements, and something was sparking dangerously near the fuel lines. But they were alive, and the shadow ships hadn't followed them down yet. That was something. Marcus was checking the emergency beacon when he heard it, a soft whimpering sound coming from the cargo hold. He froze, his hand moving instinctively to the plasma pistol at his hip. The salvage business attracted all kinds of desperate people, and stowaways weren't uncommon. But this sound was different. Younger somehow. He made his way carefully toward the cargo bay, stepping over twisted metal and scattered supplies. The whimpering came again, definitely from behind a stack of storage containers. Marcus drew his weapon, not to threaten, but to be ready. In his experience, scared beings were often the most dangerous. "Hello?" he called out softly. "I know you're there. I'm not going to hurt you." The sound stopped immediately. Marcus waited, counting his heartbeats. Then, slowly, a small figure emerged from behind the containers. It was a child, though clearly not human. Her skin had a faint blue tint that seemed to shift in the light, and her large eyes were the color of deep ocean water. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old, by human standards anyway. "Please don't hurt me," she whispered. In accented standard, her voice barely audible above the ship's dying systems. Marcus immediately holstered his weapon and knelt down to her level. "Hey there, little one, I'm Marcus. What's your name?" The child hesitated, her eyes darting between him and the exit. "Zara," she finally said. "I didn't mean to hide on your ship. I was scared." "Scared of what?" Marcus asked gently, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew the answer. "The Dark Ones," Zara whispered. "They took my mama. She told me to run and hide, so I did. I hid in your ship when it was docked at the station." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. The shadows. Of course, they were after this child. He'd heard rumors about their raids on outer colonies, how they took prisoners for reasons nobody understood. But seeing the fear in this little girl's eyes made it personal. "Well, Zara," he said, standing up and offering her his hand. "Looks like we're stuck together for now. But don't worry. I'm pretty good at keeping people safe." She looked at his outstretched hand for a long moment before taking it. Her fingers were small and warm, and Marcus felt an unexpected surge of protectiveness. He'd never had children of his own, never thought he was the type. But something about this brave little girl hiding in his cargo hold touched something deep inside him. A low rumble from outside interrupted his thoughts. Through the gaps in the hull, he could see movement in the jungle. Large shapes were approaching, drawn by the crash. Marcus had read enough about Xerion 7 to know that the local wildlife didn't take kindly to visitors. "We need to move," he said, gathering essential supplies into a pack. "This ship isn't safe anymore." As if to emphasize his point, something roared in the distance, a sound that made Marcus's teeth ache. Zara pressed closer to him, her eyes wide with fear. "It's okay," Marcus said, checking his weapons and emergency gear. "I've dealt with angry wildlife before. The trick is to be scarier than they are." They made their way out of the wreck just as the first of Xerion 7's predators arrived. It looked like someone had crossed a bear with a giant insect, all chitinous armor and snapping mandibles. Its 6 eyes fixed on them with hungry intelligence. Marcus raised his plasma rifle, but before he could fire, Zara stepped forward. She made a series of clicking sounds, almost musical in their complexity. The creature stopped, tilted its massive head, and then turned and lumbered away into the jungle. "How did you do that?" Marcus asked, staring after the retreating predator. Zara shrugged, suddenly looking very young again. "Mama taught me that all living things have songs. You just have to know how to listen." Before Marcus could respond, the sky above them began to darken. 3 shadow ships were descending through the clouds, their hulls rippling with that unsettling liquid darkness effect. They'd found them. "Run!" Marcus said, grabbing Zara's hand. "Into the jungle! Stay close to me and do exactly what I say." They plunged into the alien forest as the first plasma blasts began to rain down behind them. The trees were massive, their trunks covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed like slow heartbeats. Strange flowers the size of dinner plates turned to track their movement, and the air hummed with the sound of unseen insects. Marcus led them deeper into the undergrowth, using every trick he'd learned in his military days to mask their trail. Behind them, he could hear the sound of the shadow troops landing, their harsh voices calling out in a language that hurt to listen to. "Marcus," Zara whispered as they paused behind a fallen log. "Why are they after me?" Marcus looked down at her, this small alien child who had somehow become his responsibility. "I don't know, kiddo, but I promise you this, we're going to find your mama and get you both somewhere safe." The sound of approaching footsteps made them both freeze. The real chase was just beginning. The path. Home. The purple twilight of Xerion 7 painted everything in shades of mystery and danger as Marcus led Zara deeper into the alien jungle. Behind them, the sounds of pursuit grew closer, the mechanical whir of shadow scanners and the harsh crack of energy weapons cutting through vegetation. Marcus's military training kicked in, every sense alert to the threats surrounding them. "This way," he whispered, guiding Zara around a cluster of crystal formations that hummed with internal energy. The little girl moved with surprising grace, her feet making barely a sound on the spongy forest floor. Whatever her species was, they were natural survivors. The jungle seemed to be helping them hide. Thick vines cascaded down like curtains, and the bioluminescent patterns on the trees shifted and changed, creating a natural camouflage that confused electronic sensors. Marcus began to understand why Zerion 7 had never been successfully colonized. The planet itself seemed to resist. "Outside interference. Marcus," Zara whispered, tugging on his sleeve. "There's something ahead, something friendly." Before he could ask what she meant, a figure emerged from behind one of the massive trees. Marcus raised his rifle, then slowly lowered it in amazement. The being before them was clearly Zara's species, tall and graceful, with the same blue-tinted skin and large ocean-deep eyes. But where Zara was small and innocent, this figure radiated authority and barely contained power. "Mama!" Zara cried, breaking away from Marcus and running toward the figure. The woman, Commander Thane, Marcus realized from Zara's excited babbling, caught her daughter in a fierce embrace. For a moment, the hardened military bearing cracked, revealing a mother's desperate relief. Then her eyes met Marcus's over Zara's head, and he saw gratitude mixed with careful assessment. "You protected my daughter," Thane said, her voice carrying the weight of both thanks and question. "Why?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "She needed help. That's enough reason for me." Thane studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "The Shadows took me 3 cycles ago. They wanted information about our defensive networks, our hidden colonies. They believe Zara carries genetic markers that could unlock our ancient technologies." A plasma blast seared through the air above their heads, followed by the sound of heavy footsteps. The shadow hunters had found their trail. "We need to move," Marcus said, scanning the jungle for escape routes. "How many of them are there?" "Too many," Thane replied grimly. "But there is another way. Zara, show him what you showed me." The little girl placed her hand on one of the crystal formations. Immediately, the entire grove began to pulse with soft light. The humming sound grew stronger, and Marcus felt something shift in the air around them, like the moment before a thunderstorm, when every atom seems charged with potential. "The planet is alive," Zara said simply. "It remembers the old ones, the first people who came here. It knows Mama's people." The ground beneath their feet began to vibrate, and Marcus watched in amazement as the jungle itself started to move. Vines reached out like protective arms, creating barriers between them and their pursuers. Trees shifted and swayed, blocking sightlines and confusing sensors. The very air seemed to thicken, muffling sounds and distorting heat signatures. "Impossible," Marcus breathed. "Your people think in terms of technology," Thane said, her hand resting protectively on Zara's shoulder. "But there are other kinds of intelligence in the universe, older kinds. My people learned to listen to them long ago." The sound of frustrated shouts echoed through the jungle as the shadow hunters found their path blocked by walls of living vegetation. Marcus could hear them trying to cut through with energy weapons, but the plants seemed to regenerate as fast as they could be damaged. "This won't hold them forever," Thane said. "We need to reach the temple." "What temple?" Marcus asked, following as she led them deeper into the jungle. "The reason I came to Zerion 7 in the first place. There's an ancient site here, a place where my people once communed with the planet's consciousness. If we can reach it, we can call for help." They moved through the shifting landscape, the jungle parting before them like a living sea. Marcus had seen many wonders in his years of salvaging alien ruins, but nothing had prepared him for this, an entire ecosystem working in harmony with sentient beings. It challenged everything he thought he knew about the relationship between civilization and nature. Zara walked between them, her small hand touching trees and crystal formations as they passed. Each contact seemed to strengthen the planet's response, as if her innocent trust was a key that unlocked deeper connections. "She's special, isn't she?" Marcus said to Thane as they climbed a ridge of flowing stone that formed steps beneath their feet. "All children are special," Thane replied, "but Zara carries the old songs in her blood. She can hear what the planet remembers, speak to what it dreams. That's why the shadows want her." Behind them, the sound of pursuit had grown distant but not disappeared. The shadow hunters were persistent, if nothing else, and Marcus knew they would eventually find a way through the jungle's defenses. The temple, when they reached it, was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It wasn't built so much as grown, spiraling. Towers of crystal and living wood that pulsed with the same rhythm as the jungle around them. At its heart was a pool of liquid light that reflected not the sky above, but something else entirely. Depths that seemed to contain stars. "The mirror of memory," Thane said softly. "Here, the planet stores everything it has seen, everyone it has known." Zara approached the pool without hesitation, kneeling at its edge. When she placed her hands in the liquid light, the entire temple erupted in song. Not heard, but felt, a harmony that resonated in Marcus's bones and made his heart race with sudden joy. Images began to form in the pool's surface. Ships descending from the stars, not in conquest but in friendship. Marcus saw Thane's people as they had been eons ago, learning from the planet, protecting it, becoming part of its vast consciousness. He understood now why the shadows wanted this connection. With it, they could dominate not just worlds, but the very essence of life itself. The song reached a crescendo, and suddenly the jungle erupted with movement. Not the shadow hunters, but something else entirely. Creatures Marcus had thought were mere animals revealed themselves as guardians, ancient beings that had waited in silence for the call. They moved through the forest like living wind, converging on the temple with purpose and power. "The old compact is renewed," Thane said, her voice filled with wonder. "The planet accepts our plea for aid." The shadow hunters arrived at the temple just as the guardians reached them. What followed was less a battle than a reckoning. The shadows, for all their technology and cruelty, were no match for beings who fought with the fury of a living world. Their weapons failed. Their ships were pulled from the sky by vines that grew with impossible speed, and their electronic systems were overwhelmed by the planet's electromagnetic song. In minutes, it was over. The surviving shadow hunters fled to whatever ships remained, their defeat absolute and humiliating. Marcus stood at the edge of the temple, watching as Zara played in the pool of liquid light while her mother spoke with the guardians in their musical language. He felt like an outsider observing something sacred, a connection between beings and world that his own species had never achieved. "You could stay," Thane said, approaching him. "The planet accepts you. Zara has sung your song to the deep memories, and they find it pleasing." Marcus looked out at the alien jungle, now peaceful in the gathering twilight. It was tempting, a chance to be part of something larger than himself, to help protect wonders that few humans had ever imagined. But he thought of his ship, his life among the stars, the freedom of the void. "Thank you," he said finally, "but I belong out there between the worlds. Someone has to keep an eye on the dark corners of space. Make sure others like the shadows don't get too comfortable." Thane nodded, understanding in her deep eyes. "Then take this," she said, offering him a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. "A gift from Zara and the planet. If you ever need our help, break it and speak her name to the stars." Marcus accepted the crystal, feeling its warmth against his palm. "What about you two? Will you be safe here?" "The planet protects its own now," Thane replied, "and the shadows will spread word of what happened here. They won't return soon, if ever. Zara ran up to them, her face bright with joy. "Marcus, the planet says thank you for bringing me home. It wants to give you a ship." Before Marcus could protest, the ground near the temple began to shift and part. From beneath the living earth rose a vessel unlike any he had ever seen, part grown, part built, incorporating both technology and biology in perfect harmony. It was beautiful, organic curves flowing into crystalline surfaces that hummed with power. "She'll take you anywhere you want to go," Zara said proudly, "and she'll never break down because she's alive like the planet." Marcus stared at the ship, then knelt down to Zara's level. "Thank you, little one. You've given me more than I ever gave you." "You gave me my mama back," Zara said simply. "That's everything." As Marcus prepared to leave, boarding the living ship that responded to his thoughts like an extension of his own body, he realized that his life had been fundamentally changed. He had started this adventure as a simple salvage operator, concerned only with profit and survival. But protecting Zara had awakened something in him, a sense of purpose that went beyond personal gain. The ship lifted silently from the temple, its biomechanical systems interfacing with his mind in ways that felt natural rather than intrusive. Through the transparent sections of the hull, he could see Thane and Zara standing at the temple's edge, waving goodbye. As he rose above Zarion 7's atmosphere, Marcus activated the ship's communication system and sent a message across all frequencies, a wah, warning to others like the shadows and a promise to those who needed protection. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but it wasn't without guardians. Looking back at the beautiful, deadly world below, Marcus smiled. He had found something precious in that jungle, not just a living ship or alien allies, but a reminder of what made humanity worth defending. The willingness to risk everything for a stranger, to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. His new ship sang softly as it entered hyperspace, carrying him toward whatever adventure waited among the stars. Behind him, Zarion 7 glowed in the light of its distant sun, a world where the impossible had become possible and a small alien girl had taught a cynical salvage operator how to be a hero. The cosmos was full of wonders and terrors in equal measure, but Marcus Webb was no longer just surviving in it, he was protecting it, one rescue at a time. The end.